But those who get or who got AstraZeneca must wait up to 3 months for their second shot, meaning those who were recently inoculated may not meet the deadline.
That's a problem for them because ngayon lang sila magpapabakuna. They should have vaccinated. They should have been vaccinated much earlier. This is also a valid concern, and we will raise this once again to the three agencies, the DOTR and the Department of Labor, so that we can come up with some policy for them.
For now, the agency says the rule still stands. AstraZeneca vaccinees relying on public transport will have to adjust until a new set of guidelines is released, hopefully before the window expires. Global headlines now. Moderna begins clinical trials for a booster shot targeting the more contagious Omicron variant. About 600 people will be enrolled in the study in 24 sites across the United States. Some participants will be fully vaccinated and others will be boosted. The development comes as a new study shows Moderna's regular booster shot still works against Omicron after 6 months, but antibody protection wanes sixfold. The White House outlining plans for the future of living with COVID-19 without disrupting normal life. Scientists are working to develop a universal vaccine that will protect against any type of coronavirus, including variants that cause COVID-19. But a top U.S. health expert says this pan-coronavirus shot will take years to make. So for now, it's important to get available doses and boosters as they still work against booster program. She adds an open Denmark with hugs, parties and festivals are now expected, but cases may again rise in the winter and a fourth dose could be required. Up ahead on Newsnight, a Senate committee seeks the arrest of more individuals linked to the controversy involving Pharmally Pharmaceutical. And who were the K-pop artists that got the most attention from Pinoys on Twitter? Find out after the break. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Economic managers believe the door to recovery is now wide open. The 2021 growth beat expectations despite the devastation left by Typhoon Odette. Our senior correspondent Lois Calderon makes sense of the numbers.
Early on in the pandemic 2 years ago, we visited this resort in Batangas. At the time, Casa Escondida managed to stay afloat using years of savings. It even kept all its staff despite times of zero sales. We revisit resort owner Dong Vergara to ask if business is returning to how it was before the pandemic. Because President Duterte's economic managers are confident the country could return to pre-pandemic strength this quarter.
Wala kami nararamdaman na pagbabago compared sa last 2 years. Mababa kasi ang guest arrivals namin.
The economic team reported outperforming its growth target for 2021, 5.6% versus a 5 to 5.5 goal. The economy zoomed in the last quarter of the year when lockdowns were eased, and despite the devastation from killer typhoon Odette. Farm output fell, but the losses were offset by factory production and other sectors that remained open despite the lockdown, like construction, trade, and transport. Household consumption also got a kick from revenge spending, as kids were allowed to go out during the Christmas holidays. That boosted tourist spots like beaches. But it was fleeting, as Metro Manila plus nearby provinces like Batangas were put under Alert Level 3 as the new year opened.
Maganda yung guest arrival namin, lalo na nung holiday. Pero starting this year, January, dahil tumaas yung Omicron cases, wala nang pumupunta.
Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Chua says a pre-pandemic growth pace could return as early as this quarter. That optimism is underpinned by falling COVID-19 cases and rising vaccination rates.
The lowering of alert level is imminent in the coming weeks. When we do a shifting from alert level 3 to alert level 2, for instance, in the NCR plus area, we can expect 3 billion per week improvement in our gross value added.
Economic managers want an economy that's no longer held hostage by on and off lockdowns. They call it decoupling. When that happens, jobs will return and will stay. And businesses like Dong's Resort will no longer tread choppy waters, but rather cruise with greater certainty. Lois Calderon, CNN, Philippines.
Senators want 5 more people arrested in connection with a probe on the alleged anomalous purchase of COVID-19 supplies. Let's bring in Amor Santos with the details. Go ahead, Amor.
Pia, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee seeks the arrest of several individuals linked to the embattled Pharmaly Pharmaceutical. Committee Chairman Richard Gordon moved to cite them in contempt for not attending hearings on the alleged corruption scandal. Among them is businesswoman Rose Nonolin, who is running for Congress representing Quezon City. Her husband, Lin Wei-Shong, was identified as Pharmaly's financial manager. The Lins are also business associates of former Duterte advisor Michael Yang, who supposedly helped Pharmaly corner billions of pesos worth of supply contracts. Rose Nonolin was present in previous hearings, but she again asked to be excused on Thursday, this time due to COVID-19 and other illnesses. Her husband never showed up. Also facing imminent arrest are other private individuals tagged in the probe, including Gerald Cruz, Sofia Custodio, Dennis Manalastas, and Jason Uson.
Walang tulong ang NBI, walang tulong ang mga pulis na mahuli itong 2 tao ito na kasama sa lahat ng hanap buhay na malalaki ni Michael Yang na nagtatago. Walang iba kundi si Gerald Cruz, na executive assistant ni Michael Yang, si Jason Uson, na may milyon-milyon share sa mga kumpanya kung saan naroon din si Rose Nonolin at Michael Yang. Napagalaman po namin si Mr. Uson po pala ay umalis na ng Pilipinas patungong Japan mga 3 buwan na nakalipas no September 2021. Malinaw na sa gitna ng investigasyon siya ay umalis ng Pilipinas katulad ng asawa ni Rose Nonolin.
According to tax expert Mon Abrea, the Lins, Cruz, Uson, Yang, and others should be held liable for violating the tax code. Pharmaly officials Mohit Dargani and Lincoln Ong are still detained at the Pasay City Jail for refusing to submit documents subpoenaed by lawmakers. Senate security personnel are still trying to track down Yang and former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau. Back to you.
Amor, it's been months since Lau and Michael Yang were ordered arrested. Any information on where they could be?
Well, Senator Gordon says Lau is hiding in Davao del Sur. If you can recall, the Senate security tried to arrest him in his registered addresses in Metro Manila, Cebu City, and Davao City, but he could not be found. Michael Yang attended today's probe virtually, but there's still a standing arrest warrant for him for allegedly lying. Pia.
So, Amor, after 18 hearings, is the end in sight?
Pia Gordon says they will wait for the arrests as the investigation continues, but he will already present a preliminary report at the plenary on Monday. Back to you.
Amor Santos there reporting. Presidential aspirants take their stand on more issues as the election draws near. Vice President Leni Robredo says the public should vote for her because women leaders have proven they shine in times of crisis. She was also asked by talk show host Boy Abunda why people should not vote for her rivals.
Bakit hindi dapat iboto si Bongbong Marcos?
Number one, sinungaling. Pangalawa, in the difficult moments, hindi siya nagpapakita.
Si Isko, bakit hindi namin, si Mayor Isko, bakit hindi dapat namin iboto?
Hindi klaro yung paninindigan sa maraming bagay.
Ping Lacson.
Maraming salita pero kulang sa on-the-ground na gawa.
VP Leni, bakit hindi namin dapat iboto si Manny Pacquiao, si Senator Manny Pacquiao?
Ito malungkot ito, Boy, pero yung kabutihan ng loob kasi sa atin hindi sapat.
Senator Ping Lacson denies he lacks work on the ground. He says he just doesn't want to inappropriately appear when helping out in moments like calamities. The team of Bongbong Marcos says the former senator refuses to engage in what was described as negative and hateful campaigning.
Ko na may mga mararaffle ako ng feathers, pero tinatanong kasi ako eh. Ayoko naman na sumagot na parang umiiwas. In my honest opinion, yun talaga yung palagay ko na kailangan ko isagot.
Meanwhile, Senator Manny Pacquiao says he will push for charter change if he becomes president in a bid to shift to a parliamentary form of government. He says the three government branches currently in place are the country's presidential system are, quote, contaminated. Labor leader Calyodi de Guzman will not focus on militarization if elected president. In an interview with DZRH, he says he would instead wage war against climate change and would forge alliances with other nations to fight the global emergency. He also says he's open to hearing the concerns of businesses, but that labor rights are of paramount importance. A poll official hints someone is interfering in the three disqualification cases against former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Rowena Guanzon, the presiding commissioner of the COMELEC's First Division, warned on Thursday she will announce her vote and separate opinion on the Marcos cases even without the official ruling. Now, that threat comes a day after she called on the commissioner assigned to consolidate the case to stop delaying the decision.
Kung ang dahilan niya ay may sakit yung kanyang lawyer, tapos na rin naman yung quarantine nila, baka naman po, pagbigyan naman natin siya ng ilang araw pa para maisumiti na niya at makaboto na kami.
Despite heading the First Division, Guanzon is not assigned to write the decision on the cases. It's either Commissioner Amy Ferolino or Marlon Casquejo. We'll speak with Commissioner Guanzon herself later on News.ph at 7. The Commission on Elections warning against social media accounts impersonating the poll body's key officials. COMELEC says these fake profiles are part of a broader attempt to undermine the integrity of the elections. The poll body is urging the public not to accept friend requests from these accounts and to report them instead. The Commission also says it would take legal action against fraudsters. The warning comes after a fake profile under the name of Commissioner Marlon Casquejo surfaced on Twitter. Now, support pouring in for fishermen affected by the ongoing construction of the new Manila International Airport in Bulacan. Stanley Gahete has that report.
Low income due to the pandemic confronts many Bulacan fisher folk, including 31-year-old fisherman Leo of Barangay Masile, Malolos, Bulacan. He belongs to one of the fishing communities affected by the ongoing construction of Bulacan Airport City Project, also known as the New Manila International Airport.
Apektado kami ng pandemic kasi sa panguhuli namin ng pangingisda, medyo humihina yung humahango sa amin ng mga panguhuli namin, medyo bumababa yung presyo.
While the airport project promises to generate jobs and business opportunities, local villagers have prepared petitions to get help for the affected communities. The project has now ongoing dredging activities.
Masyadong lumiit yung bahagi ng aming pinahingisdaan. Taahin talaga namin yung aming mga pangailangan na lagi naman sagot ay matutugunan.
The 740 billion airport project of San Miguel Corporation says it has strong backing from local government officials and residents, provided the conglomerate ensures support for sustainable livelihood for local communities.
Para po sa ating itatayong airport, kami po ay nagsimula dito sa mga mangingisda ng Bulacan province since 2020 po, mga latter part of the 2020. After po natin na maglipat ng mga nasa mga sitios, kasali po sila dun sa mga nangingisda dun sa ating tatayuan ng airport.
Fishing nets were provided to 175 fishermen, both in Malolos and Bulacan. Barangay fishery industry boards were also set up to create sustainable fishing activities besides relocation projects.
Tinutulungan po natin sila na makapangisda sa ibang lugar na safe din po silang mangisda at sinusuportahan po natin ng mga gamit kagaya nitong pinamigay natin na pangkabuhayang lambat.
Lubos po kami nagpapasalamat kasi po kahit papaano pinapansin nila yung pangangailangan ng aming mga ngisda.
The Bulacan Airport is designed to accommodate up to 100 million travelers annually. It's envisioned to decongest the country's main gateway, the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The multi-billion peso air hub is expected to operate in 2025. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Still ahead, we check in with some Filipino athletes competing in the Southeast Asian Games this May and find out which K-pop sensations became the talk of netizens on Twitter last year. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Only 4 months to go until the delayed Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam. How likely is another multi-medal haul for the Philippines? Pauline Versosa gives us the details with some of our local athletes.
After dominating the 2019 Southeast Asian Games on home soil, Filipino athletes are on a mission to win big once again. This coming May, over 500 national athletes are set to see action in the 31st edition of the regional meet in Hanoi, Vietnam, that is finally pushing through after a 6-month delay. But for Philippine Olympic Committee President Abraham Bambol Tolentino, replicating the country's success may just be an uphill battle.
We were #1 overall champion, but it's Vietnam in second place. Ang lamang natin sa Vietnam is 40 plus. 40 plus golds. No? Eh, binawasan ni Vietnam ng 30 plus golds na events. Saan tayo naka-gold? So, simple mathematics na lang yun. Tapos nagdagdag pa siya ng 30, minus and plus. So, you can picture out na. So, talagang uphill battle. Tapos nabawasan pa yung training ng mga bata, budgetary constraints, mabigat.
According to Tolentino, the Philippine team still has a strong chance of landing in the top 3, with the country still a top contender in sports like gymnastics, weightlifting, athletics, martial arts, and basketball. Even after suffering major setbacks, Filipino athletes are determined not to fall behind. For 3-time SEA Games Wushu gold medalist Agatha Wong, this means doubling down in training in the hope of clinching her 4th straight gold.
It's been a while since I competed in person, like in actual. So I'm kind of very nervous and I'm very anxious about it. Yung mga iba kong competitors, they've already started while I'm just about to go to a bubble while they have been in a bubble since, I don't know, like 2020, 2021. So I think that's the biggest motivator for me. Like I have to, not only show myself, but also show everybody that kahit na we're pressed for time, kahit na we've been through a lot this pandemic as a country, we're still going to show up and we're still going to do our best.
As they embark on this daunting task, 2019 SEA Games karate gold medalist Jamie Lim hopes Filipino athletes will continue to receive the same all-out support from their countrymen.
Siyempre yung tiwala ng nation. So I hope that they still have our backs and they still believe in us kahit na kulang yung training. Because nga, I think the Filipinos know naman our spirit, our fighting spirit. So if they give the same support as they did no 2019, because I remember feeling so much support from the Filipinos, especially sa opening ceremony and the entire SEA Games. So maybe if we just keep that spirit up, that will be enough for us.
The Philippine team is set to leave for Hanoi, Vietnam on May 6 and 10, with the 31st SEA Games taking place from May 12 to 25th. Pauline Verzosa, CNN Philippines.
Which K-pop artists did Filipinos tweet about most last year? Grammy-nominated BTS topped the K-pop Twitter recap list for tweets from the Philippines. They were followed by newcomers ENHYPEN and girl group Blackpink. BTS also took the top spot in global tweets. Over 68 million posts talked about their Permission to Dance on Stage concert last month. The 23-member group NCT second on the list, consistent with last year's ranking. The Philippines made a big contribution to the global list, placing third countries that tweeted about K-pop the most. And that is it for now. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Hontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond headlines. Liabilities and net worth, or SALN, may seem like an ordinary piece of paper, but a president and two chief justices removed from office because of it. By law, all public officials and employees are required to file their SALNs containing information on their assets such as cash and properties, liabilities, business interests, financial connections, and relatives in government. These can be used to expose corruption, conflicts of interest, and unexplained wealth of those in government. But up to this day, President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to release his SALN beginning 2018. And now, Bongbong Marcos, former senator who seeks to replace Duterte, under fire for saying he will not publicize his SALN if or when elected president. We'll take a closer look at the role of SALNs in good governance tonight. Good evening. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests tonight, joining us via Zoom, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, and senatorial aspirant, lawyer, attorney Chel Diokno. Let's begin with you, Attorney Monsod, as a framer of the 1987 Constitution, a member of the 1986 Constitutional Commission. What does the Constitution say about SALNs? I know you might feel like you're sounding like a broken record, but I think it's very good to remind people what the Constitution says about SALNs. Sir, Attorney Monsod.
Yes, well, under Article 11 on accountability of public officers, that is Section
Attorney
17.
Monsod?
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Attorney Monsod?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? The I'm not muted anymore. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, sir. Yes, now I can hear you, sir. So I
Okay.
hope you heard my question, po, sir.
Yes, I got it. Well, the specific constitutional
Yes, go
provision,
ahead,
of
po.
course, Article 11 and on accountability of public officers, Section 17, which requires public officials and so on to file a declaration of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And also, what's important is the end of that paragraph, which said that the declaration shall be provided to the public and in the manner provided by law. That the law cannot limit the amount of information, but just prescribe the manner of disclosure. So that's the specific provision on sound in the Constitution. But I'd like to add that there are several provisions that are important or related to this. Number one, sovereignty belongs to the people and all government authority comes from them. What does that mean? It means that the people are the principals and public officials are their agents. And the principals have a right to know the qualifications and wealth and so on of their agents. Also in Article 11, public office is a public trust. Also Section 7 that says that the ombudsman is the protector of the people. The ombudsman is not the protector of public officials against the public. On the contrary, it is the job of the ombudsman to be the protector of the people. Okay, so that's the premises that we can discuss what this is all about.
Attorney Monsod, I started the show by asking you to repeat, like I said, like a broken record, because it's so important that we all remember what the Constitution says about the SALN. I have a few follow-up questions, but before we go to that, I wanted to ask Attorney Chel Diokno naman, who's also joining us via Zoom, what the law, for example, RA 6713, says about SALN. Again, Attorney Chel, I know you know this by heart, the way Attorney Chris Monsod knows the Constitution by heart also. But again, very good to remind people what the law says about SALNs.
Thank you, Pia, and good evening. Good evening to all the viewers. The law is very clear. Republic Act 6713 both imposes an obligation on public officials and employees to file their statement of assets and liabilities and net worth, and as well provides that the public has a right to know the SALNs. And when you look at the other sections of the law, it also is clear that every citizen has access to the SALN, provided they just pay a minimum modest fee. And that's really the only condition imposed by the law itself. So I really find it, I cannot understand why there are officials who have made this mandatory ministerial duty into a discretionary type of thing, when it's obviously not that way as contemplated by the law.
Okay, so now the follow-up questions, and it's good that we heard you first, you also, Attorney Chel. So both of you saying the public has the right to know. And as Attorney Chel was mentioned the word discretionary, because what's happening is that we have laws or rules or guidelines from different offices, including the Office of the Ombudsman, about when these can be released. Who can apply for a copy of SALN of so-and-so, what should be submitted. Parang ang daming mga requirements. Was it meant to be that way? Attorney Monsod, earlier you also said, di ba, yung public has the right to know. Was it really meant to be that way na kailangan may mga, well, hurdles before we get a copy of any official's SALN? Attorney Chris Monsod?
No, well, it's mandatory. It's a constitutional provision after all. It's not just a law. It's a constitutional provision. And the purpose of it is accountability. Like, you have to have to file a SAM at the beginning of your term, and you have to file a SAM at the end of your term. And then the information to the public is, if there is a questionable increase in your wealth, for example, they have a right to know what happened, how come that you increase your wealth disproportionately to your compensation as a government official. Because there are also prohibitions on what you can or cannot do as a public official, right? You have to disclose your, for example, your financial or contractual connections in business or profession and so on. And if I were a public official who has nothing to hide, I would be happy to provide the details in order to set the record straight on my net worth and on my wealth.
Attorney Chell, kanina binanggit niyo yung termino na discretionary, and for example, we remember very clearly how late last year Ombudsman Martires was talking about how there should be several guidelines for releasing the presidents and the VPs SAL-N, and he was saying why are people so interested in it. Yung Constitution as the portion of that read by Attorney Chris Monsod, and the law, RA 6713, as you reminded us, was it meant to be, para bang, pwede bang i-amend? Of course, laws can be amended, Constitution can be amended, pero, pwede ba nating galawin yan para para mabago yung mga provisions on the SAL-N, for example, Attorney Chell, or hindi dapat?
The law is the law. Until it's amended, it must be followed by everyone, especially by our public officials. And if you look at the relevant provisions of 6713, they really provide for two rights for the public. Number one is access. Any citizen can have access at any reasonable time of the day. There's no even need to pay any fee, and there's no condition imposed by the law. If you want to get a copy of the SAL-N, then you must pay a fee. And that's pretty much the only condition imposed by the law. So if there are officials who are claiming that there must be so many different requirements that are not in the law, my view is that that's ultra-vires, that is exceeding what's in the law, and they cannot do that. If they want to do it, then they should amend the law first. They cannot impose their discretion when the law does not allow discretion, and in fact provides that the duty is ministerial.
Well, we've had top government officials, falling, or the acts falling on top government officials because of this. And President Duterte has said that he didn't want to release his SAL-N beginning 2018. Bongbong Marcos, a presidential candidate for the May election, saying he's not going to release it if or when he becomes or is elected president. All these questions hanging until we come back after this break. Politics as usual. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. A Chief Justice and incumbent President removed or medyo sumabit dahil sa issue ng Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth ng SAL-N. That is what we're talking about tonight with Attorney Chell Diokno and Attorney Christian Monsod. President Duterte has said before that he will not release his SAL-N beginning 2018. In 2017, what we know is that 28.5 million ang kanyang net worth. What is the remedy? Is there a remedy for this or wala? Attorney Christian Monsod, sir.
Well, what is to me a matter of concern is that it seems that all the government agencies mentioned in the Constitution whose SAL should be disclosed to the public are making rules on the content of the SAL, right? They'll just give a summary of assets, liabilities, and net worth, and so on, and who can ask for a copy, the law, the legislature can provide the manner, but they cannot provide limitations on the content. Correct? To me, it's a constitutional issue. Unfortunately, I think even the Supreme Court engages in that, in which they said that in which they would release only summaries of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And it's the Constitution, the Supreme Court, that has to interpret the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, so if President Duterte says, no, I'm not going to release my SALN, what is the remedy here? Can he be compelled? Who will compel him to release his SALN? Because, even if we say the public has the right to know, and then he says, no, I'm not going to release it, paano na?
That's Supreme Court, ultimately.
So kailangan umakyat pa sa Supreme Court para humingi ng SALN, which is already provided for in the Constitution and also provided for by law.
No, at saka yung specific officers. That's the one I'm saying that it's disappointing that the specific officers that are mentioned in the Constitution are making up their own instructions or conditions on the content. Manner, yes, but not content.
Well, Senator Bongbong Marcos now saying that if or when elected president, he's not going to be releasing, he's not inclined to release his SALN dahil pwedeng gamitin laban sa kanya. That's paraphrasing him. How do you view that now, Attorney Monsod?
Well, I think he's wrong. And I think it's about time that we reviewed, the agencies of government review their own instructions or conditions and so on, because this is the constitutional provision is not being implemented properly by, I'm sorry, unfortunately, by almost all, if not all, of the government agencies that are tasked to do the job.
Attorney Shel Diokno, of course, you are a senatorial candidate on the slate of another presidential candidate, Vice President Leni Robredo. But what were your thoughts when you heard Bongbong Marcos say this, that he is not inclined to release his SALN if or when elected president?
Well, I thought no one is supposed to be above the law, and I thought we're supposed to have the same standard of justice for everyone. What the statement of Mr. Marcos is really a reflection of how we have a double standard in our country, where ordinary government officials have to file their SALNs. They get charged and even convicted or removed from the service if they don't, while those who are in high government posts apparently can get away with it. And that is really why we have to do something about justice in our country. We have to find a way to strengthen it and to strengthen accountability.
So what can we do? When you say we have to find a way to strengthen accountability, what is that way? What exactly do we need to do?
Well, first of all, what remedies are available? It may be possible to file a petition for mandamus against the statutory custodian of the SALN for them to release the SALN as required by Republic Act 6713. That could be filed in any of the courts that have jurisdiction over mandamus. Other than that, if they are impeachable officials, they could also be subjected to impeachment, but we know that that's really a political exercise. In terms of legislation, it is possible to strengthen the citizens' right of access by amending Republic Act 6713 to give it more teeth, to make sure that it's very clear that the duty is ministerial and that any official who blocks the release of SALN should be penalized severely. Because, after all, we are just talking about making sure that government officials do not amass ill-gotten wealth. The purpose of a SALN is very clear. The public wants to know what you have in terms of your assets, liabilities, and net worth, and every year thereafter we can compare. If you declared only, say, 10 million today and next year you declared 50 million, then the public has a right to know where did you get that other money. And that really is very important to all of us, because the money of the government is not theirs. it belongs to the people.
And of course, we are presuming that everyone who files a SALN is telling the truth, not truthful yung laman ng SALN, right? I mean, so hindi lang pag-file ng SALN, the act of filing it, but making sure that what you put there is really the truth, right?
Yes, and many people are not aware that under the law, when you file a SALN, you're also required to execute an authority in favor of the ombudsman so that the ombudsman can confirm the veracity of your SALN. That authority includes you're allowing the ombudsman to look into your records in the BIR, to check your business interests and financial connections to ensure that your declarations are really accurate. And if not, then the ombudsman should be going after the person who misdeclared in their SALN or didn't file at all.
All right, more from our guests, Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno on the SALN. When we return, this is Politics as Usual. This is Politics as Usual. We are on our final stretch. Our guests, Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno. We're talking about SALNs. My final question, Attorney Diokno and Attorney Monsod, is this. Can anyone be above the law for any reason whatsoever? Pwede ba siyang exempted dun sa batas ukol sa Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth? When I say anyone, I'm referring specifically to the incumbent president. So President Duterte saying, no, I don't want to release my SALN and therefore he will not. Is he exempted because he's a very popular president? The other anyone we are referring to here, of course, is a presidential aspirant, Senator Bongbong Marcos. Can he be exempted from the law? Is he above the law? Because, for example, well, he's very popular right now. Pre-campaign surveys put him at 50% and above in survey rankings. Meron po bang pwedeng ma-exempt? Tulad nila, halimbawa, Attorney Chel Diokno, you first, and then Attorney Christian Monsod, then we'll go to final words.
Well, no one, as in no person at all, is allowed to be above the law. That's precisely why we have a law. Whenever Congress passes a statute, that is meant to be applied uniformly to everyone. And no one, especially those who are in government, can say that they are exempted. In fact, it is the opposite. Those in government should be the very first to abide by what is the law because that's their purpose in sitting there. The authority that they wield is not their authority. Sovereignty comes from us and we give our officials the government authority that they have. Therefore, they must abide and comply with all legal requirements, especially requirements like the SALN that have to do with ensuring that public office is a public trust and ensuring that there's no corruption in the government, that our money, the people's money, is not squandered or stolen by those in power.
Attorney Monsod?
Yes, well, I agree with Attorney Diokno. Nobody is above the law. And, just in current events, even the #1 tennis player in the world is not above the law. When what happened to Djokovic, what more the president of a country, as Chel has properly said, that is the highest position, and it's a public trust. How can we trust a government when we cannot trust a president?
Public office is public trust. Final words, Attorney Chel Diokno, you first.
Thank you, Pia. Transparency and accountability are the heart of our democracy. That's in fact the reason why we kicked out the dictatorship. And that's why it's very clear in our constitution and in the laws that have been passed that we should have transparency and accountability. That's precisely the purpose of Republic Act 6713, the Code of Conduct of Public Officials and Employees, to ensure that our government officials don't hide their assets and that they are true to their duty and obligation to really be honest and not corrupt, and that they will just serve the people rather than being served by the people. That's why, to me, it's really sad, and I'm really determined to make sure that laws like Republic Act 6713 are given more teeth and that we can restore the virtues of transparency and accountability to our government.
Attorney Monsod, your final words?
Yes, well, I think we've said it all. It's a public office, it's a public trust. And President Duterte is a very bad example of a president who refuses to abide by the Constitution. He filed up to 2017 and then he just stopped, didn't do it. And it is very disappointing. And I think really, when the ombudsman, who is supposed to be the protector of the people, is protecting people like Duterte from following the Constitution. There's something wrong with the office of the ombudsman when it does that. And Marcos Jr., who aspires to the presidency, seems to aspire also for what Duterte is doing, because he refuses to disclose the content of his assets and his liabilities and wealth. Well, I think the people should speak and insist that everybody must comply with the law and nobody is above the law, particularly a candidate and a candidate for president and an incumbent president.
Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us tonight on the show. And by the way, we did extend an invitation to a representative of Senator Marcos to join the show. We have been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here on the show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.